Okay, so let's go on. So the reason why Mass is so important is because he says here, let's go to John chapter 6. John 6, are you there? If you ever want to sit there and worry about or find out about the Eucharist, just go to the 6th chapter of John. And here in John 6 it says, we're going to go to verse 51. John chapter 6, verse 51. He says, I myself am the living bread who come down from heaven. If anyone eats this bread, he shall live forever. For my flesh is he will live forever. For the bread I will give is my flesh for the life of the world. Verse 53 it says, let me solemnly assure you, if you do not eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life inside of you. For my flesh is real food and my blood is real drink. So here we talk about the reality that when you and I go to communion, we are what we eat. We get to live forever. So the most important thing we do is go to Mass. Again, I'm not going to, again, in our diocese, I don't know about yours, but in Erie we have 32 Catholic parishes. And so we're all like a block away from each other. So my big thing with my people is I want you to be going to daily Mass. Because it's give us this day our daily bread, not our weekly bread. Does it say weekly bread? It does not. It says, give us our daily bread, which is the Eucharist. So I say and again, I won't do this to you people because I know some of you are already mad at me, but the reality is, like I'll sit there and say, how many of you believe that this is Jesus Christ in that tabernacle? How many believe? And everybody raises their hand. Then I say, how many of you go to daily Mass? And about 10 people raise their hand, and I always go, the rest of you are liars. And they go, Father, why don't you die right now? Just die. You're making me feel guilty. I hate when people make me feel guilty. Some people say, Father, you just make us feel guilty. No, I don't. I make you think about what you're doing. I want you to think about it. So I want you to think about, and if you can't go to daily Mass, like my grandmother had a ditty. My grandmother was the one who raised me, and she was a great lady. But she was also crazy. I mean, crazy. She was a little German lady, and I don't even know how I'm going to tell the story. But anyway, when I was thrown out of seminary, I was thrown out of Christ the King. And one of the things was the Bishop of Scranton gave me my acolyte. It's the ministry of acolyte. And his name at that time, he's still alive. It's unbelievable. But Bishop Timlin, very proper bishop. And so there's Bishop Timlin, and I'm standing next to Bishop Timlin. And I'm standing next to Bishop Timlin, and I'm getting my picture taken. I see my little grandmother, this little German lady. Coming, I'm thinking, don't you come over here, Graham, don't you come over here. And my grandmother comes over, and I'm thinking, don't talk to the bishop, don't talk to the bishop. And she went right up to the bishop, and she says, Bishop, can I ask you a question? And I'm thinking, say no, Bishop, say no. And the bishop said, certainly. And she said, how'd a hunk like you ever get to be bishop? We're not done, if only. Because the bishop looked at her and said, holiness. And my grandmother looked at him and said, bull, and it ends with a T. She swore to the bishop. I wanted the floor to open up and take me away. I got thrown out that year. I don't know if it had any connection. But the reality is that my grandmother, like my family, were very real people. There is no pie in the sky, la, 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 la. My grandmother did a holy hour every day. She prayed every day. She was a woman of great faith. But she also wouldn't let people get away with anything, including me. I am the quiet one in my family, in case you're wondering. Oh, I am not kidding. Oh, by far. And so the reality is, and so my grandmother, when she was dying, she was a great, great lady, and she prayed a rosary for me every day that I'd be a good priest. When I entered seminary, she said a rosary for me every day. And she got to see my ordination, and she got to pray for me for at least 5 years, a rosary every day that I'd be a good priest. Now I know she's in heaven praying it. But the reality of Jesus' real presence, when she was dying, she was in St. Francis Hospital north of Pittsburgh. And I'd go get to Pittsburgh about once a week to see her. And the last time I was with her, my grandmother used to say this rosary novena. And it has this, there's these words at the end of the rosary novena about, oh, Blessed Mother, I take this bouquet and I lay it at your feet. So while she was dying in and out of consciousness, I'd say the rosary with her, and she just keeps saying, oh, lady, I lay this bouquet at your feet. Well, at this last time I was with her, she sat there and she says, Larry, yes, Graham, close the tabernacle door. I said, Graham, you're in the hospital. There is no tabernacle here, Graham. And so she said, I said to close the tabernacle door, Larry. My grandmother could be very strong. I don't know where I got it. So anyway, I says, okay, maybe she wants communion. I said, okay, Graham, I'll go over to St. Ferdinand's and I'll get you for communion. And so she was quiet, and so I walked out and I went next, it was about an hour away to this church. And I'm thinking I'm going to go to the rectory, ask the pastor and that. But I thought, okay, so I start walking in the church. And as I walked in the church, there was no one in the church. And the tabernacle door was wide open. I go, and so I went and I took a host of the Blessed Sacrament out, put it in my pyx, and I came back and I closed the tabernacle door, and I came and I gave my grandmother what would be her viaticum. The greatest reality I can tell you is that Christ is so present in the Eucharist. And when you and I have the privilege of receiving Him, there's nothing more important. There's nothing more important. I always, when I was in first grade and the nun says, draw a picture of what you're going to be when you grow up. And I drew a picture of a priest holding up Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. Because I just knew that if this is God, He deserves everything from me. You know, there's a story about a Catholic priest who's showing a Protestant minister the church, and when he gets in front of the tabernacle, the pastor, the Catholic priest, genuflects, and the pastor says, why do you do that? And he says, because we believe that Jesus is in that tabernacle. And the pastor looked at him, the Protestant minister looked at him and says, boy, if I believed that, I would never get off my knees from before Him. If we really believe that this is Almighty God, then we would spend time with Him all the time. My grandmother had a ditty. She says, every time I pass a church, I stop and make a visit. So when the time comes when I'm wheeled in, in a casket, He won't say, who is it? Every time I pass a church, I stop and make a visit. So when the time comes when I'm wheeled in, He won't say, who is it?